truly, Rockin' Dave, the real deal, North Fort Myers, Southwest Florida. And I am going to, as I advertised on our thumbnail there, do a demo, a live stream demo on the Boss ME90. Let's try to turn this up a little bit. On just the amp sims. Yeah. Just the on this particular video, it's just the amp sims. And now what I'm doing here is like normal. What I usually do is I run this into either a powered PA speaker, mixing board into the power PA speaker or directly into the power PA speaker. In this case, I'm going direct into the Roland KC110, which I use a lot when I'm doing demos or working on programming something. And the KC110 is a keyboard slash acoustic guitar slash portable little PA amp. And on the back of the ME90, you have a manual switch that will take the output settings from either going to a guitar amp or to a line source. I have this at a line source, okay? Let me see if I can get this going so you can actually hear what this would sound like if you don't engage that switch to line source and you leave it into guitar amp and you go into a PA. Okay, so let's go ahead and switch that little switch. It sounds boxy and hissy, but when you put the switch back to line, it's set for output to go into a PA. Because what you got to realize, any type of a PA speaker is full range. Now, the reason why I go through PA speakers is because when I do live looping and using the tracks or the synth pedal, it has a better sound going through something that's full range as opposed to guitar amp or guitar speaker cab that's basically the tone is set for mid-range. And although it sounds great for the guitar, backing tracks or live looping, if you're using any type of drop pedals to create bass effect or synth pedals, or drum machines, those are the ones that's going to suffer the sound. So that's why I do that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to a bank that I'm going to override anyway, but I'm not going to override it now and save it. I'm just going to go to this particular area. Now what I'm going to do here is you got 4, you got 8-foot switches, 4 on the bottom and 4 on the top. The very last one has it's control. Well, it's not really a control switch. It's a switch that says memory, and underneath it says manual. I'm gonna go to the manual mode, which is gonna activate this as stomp boxes. And what I'm gonna do, with the exception of just a little bit of reverb, maybe I'll do what I got. Do a little bit of room reverb. How's that? I don't know how well you could hear that, because what I'm going to be doing here is going through each amp. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the bottom one, and I'm going to go clockwise. Now what we have here, we have on this side of the amps, I'm sure you could see that, you have natural, you have X crunch, X high gain, maximum, juggernaut, and X modded. These are all of Boss's own amps. On the other side here, we have a twin combo, which is basically like a Fender Twin. Tweed combo, which is, I believe, is more of like the Fender, either the Fender Deluxe or the Fender, I think it's a Fender Bassman. The Diamond is basically their take on a Vox AC30. The Brit Stack is their take on a Marshall Stack, and then the Rectifier, which is their take on a Mesa Boogie. Now I'm not too sure about the natural. I got the manual. I didn't really look at it. But what we're gonna do is, oh yeah, and I will, since I will have a little bit of reverb, use a little bit of reverb for ambience. The only thing I will do is engage what is their version of the Ibanez Tube Screamer, and I do believe it's the TS-808, which is what I used to have back in the day. Okay, so this is how it sounds, and I'm not going to use any compression or anything. Just the amps, a little bit of reverb, and in this case, the tube screamer setting on the overdrive distortion. At later videos coming up, I will combine the distortions with the amps, and then, you know, as other videos progress, with the compressor and with the comp effects one, all its effects in there, and the mod effects and modulation effects and delays, and the EQ effects 2 setting and all that. But and what I'm doing is I'm using the PRS SC single cut McCarty 594. It's because it's got basically cleaner pickups, so the pickups are not going to alter. You know, if you're using high output pickups, you know, that could kind of help alter a little bit. So we're not going to do that. Now, what I'm going to do is have my bass, middle, and treb at 12 o'clock. And my gain, if I turn my gain down all the way, I have to really crank the level on here. So I need a little bit of gain there. Wow, yeah, it's getting loud there. So what I'm going to do is crank the gain even more. So you hear the breakup. There you go. Now if I engage my coil split, this is what you get. Now, what I'm going to do here is, because I got that kind of cranking up there, I'm going to bring in the tube screamer. On the tube screamer, I have the tone, I would say it now I have it at like 12 o'clock. When you turn each knob, depending on what knob you're turning, on the LED screen, because it'll give the percentage, or yeah, basically a percentage of what you're doing there. Here the tone is at like noon. Bring the level down a little bit because it's getting a little bit cranking up. Yeah. Now what I'm going to do is, I got the gain on the natural setting all the way up. I'm going to bring up the actually I'm just going to open the A chord and bring up the drive. Okay, not bad. Maybe add a little bit. A little bit of crunch. That's without the overdrive on. And again, for all these amps, I'm just going to be using the tube screamer setting on the overdrive. Okay, that's only bridge pickup. Now I'm going to go to the neck pickup. Okay, only neck pickup there. Now I'm going to go to put the switch in the middle to combine the neck and bridge pickup. back to the bridge pickup. So not too bad at all. That kind of surprises me. So that is the natural amp setting. I'm going to turn off the overdrive. I'm going to bring my gain back down a little bit. Now we go to the X Crunch. And kind of set these. One thing I noticed with this, when you go to a different amp setting or a different effect setting, you really have to move these the knobs to get that to set for that tone. It's kind of weird. Okay. Okay, so there's the crunch setting. Maybe I'll set this a little bit to hall reverb. Now at that setting, with the gain basically at noon, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the overdrive, the Tube Screamer, and I got the drive all the way up, tone at noon, and level at noon. Okay, so we'll turn off the Tube Screamer. Now we're just going to mess with the gain on the X Crunch. Okay. Okay, getting there. And we're going to crank the gain up all the way. Now if I do bring up a little bit of bass, doesn't really seem to have much impact on that. Okay, so with the gain set all the way up on the X Crunch and the drive all the way up on the Tube Screamer, let's engage the Tube Screamer. I'm going to use the neck pickup now. Now neck and bridge pickup. Now just bridge pickup. Okay, not bad. Not bad at all. What I'm going to do right now is I got to bring down these shutters, these black curtains down here. It's getting dark here, and what I don't like is people get too nosy to see what I got and what I'm doing. You know, I'm going to give people some advice out there. Be very careful what you spotlight, what you have and what you don't have. Because there's people that like to rip people off. Okay, now let me carry on and continue on. Never had that here, but I don't trust it. Still got the mentality that I'm still living in Chicago. I'm back in Chicago. We made sure everything was lock and key, my friends. So that is the X Crunch with the Tube Screamer on. Now I've got the gain all the way up on the preamp, and I got the drive all the way up on the Tube Screamer. So let's see. I'm using the bridge pickup. I'm going to roll down my volume and let's see how that cleans up. Well, it's not going to do too much. A little bit. But we know when we turn the overdrive off, we should. There we go. Roll down the volume knob on the guitar. Not bad. So it will clean up when you roll down the volume knob on your guitar. So that is the X Crunch. Now we're going to go to the X Gain. And we're going to bring this back, reset these knobs. That's what you have to do with this. And what I'm going to do is put the gain at 9 o'clock. And let's see what we get. Okay, so now I'm just going to write on that open A. Okay, now that's cranked up all the way. And again, the EQ, bass, middle, and treble is all at 12 o'clock. Now, with the drive all the way up on the Tube Screamer, and again, tone is at 12 o'clock, levels at 12 o'clock, we're going to engage the Tube Screamer. Now we're going to use the neck pickup. Now we're going to do neck and bridge pickup. Now, we're going to leave the Tube Screamer on. We're going to back down the drive to 9 o'clock. Actually, let's take it all the way down. And now that's with the Tube Screamer on. The drive is all the way down. And let's... now we disengage the Tube Screamer. Engage the Tube Screamer. Disengage. Engage. So it does add an actual little sizzle, even though the drive is all the way down. Let's take the drive all the way, we'll take it to 9 o'clock. Now disengage the Tube Screamer. Turn down the volume a little bit. Yep, it still opens up the way it would open up on an amp. Engage the Tube Screamer. So that's gain all the way up on the preamp, drive on the tube screamer at 9 o'clock. And the more you crank this up, that really should hold, because if you crank up even more and had a louder volume and you add more drive, it could tend to sound noisy. Now, one thing I could say about the ME90, right out, and everything is right out of the box. There's no computer editing. And that being said, right out of the box, on this unit, there is no way, physically, no knobs or any switches to get in and to alter your noise reduction system, your noise gate. So from what I understand, that you have to hook up to the computer, and there's a separate setting for your noise gate. What's kind of cool with that is from the factory, it's set at a very decent setting that, in my opinion, if you crank it up, you still won't get any noise. But yet, when you crank it up, if you want to get any type of a feedback, you'll still get that, where it's not going to just abruptly shut off, you know. So now let's go ahead and crank up the drive on the tube screamer at 12 o'clock. Now I can start to hear a little bit of buzzing. Okay, now let's take it to 3 o'clock. Now I can start hearing the sizzle come in, and all the way. So that's what that sounds like. Okay. Now moving along, we are going to go to, that was the high gain. Now we're going to go to the maximum. And we're going to bring our gain back down to 9 o'clock and adjust these little, the mid bass and treb. Kind of knock it out of the last setting now into this setting. So already it's going to have a different tone there. What's interesting, when you go through each one of the amp blocks, and once you when you go to the next amp block and just kind of set the tone back to all the knobs at 12, it still has its own unique, a little variation, and I think that's what they're shooting for. Because not every amp is going to sound the same. Okay, so now we are going to take the gain and we are going to bring it at 12 o'clock. Now while we have it at 12 o'clock, we're going to do a roll down the guitar volume a little bit. We're going to bring the other volume. Yep. Okay, now we're going to take the gain and we're going to bring it to 3 o'clock. And again, all the way up. Now, we're going to roll that gain back down again to 9 o'clock. We're going to leave the drive on the tube screamer all the way up and engage the tube screamer. This is without the tube screamer. This is with the tube screamer. Now, with the tube screamer on, drive up all the way. Let's take the gain on the amp, and we're going to take it to 12 o'clock. Not bad. Leaving the tube screamer on, drive full up. We're going to take the gain on the amp, and we're going to go to 3 o'clock. And now taking the gain on the amp all the way. Neck pickup. Neck and bridge. So you start to hear the sizzle. Now with the gain on the amp all the way up, let's bring down the drive on the tube screamer. Turn the tube screamer off. Put the tube screamer on. It almost thins it out a little bit. So in that situation, if you like that sound, what you could do, but you don't want it too thin, take the tone and maybe bring the tone down on the tube screamer. So yeah, that's what you got there. You have to maybe just really mess with it. And, you know, that's what you have to do with a lot of these anyway. And guitar amp, go right into the guitar amp. You know, that's what we had to do back in the day. We had to pull the sound out. Here's the thing with this with this unit, with this ME90. I know on the other side it has what, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, 5. 5 supposed to be amp models. You know, I think Boss is not really trying to chase the amp model so much as opposed to them wanting to create their own sound. But they will dabble a little bit here. Here's your other options if you want that type of a tone. If you notice how the Boss Katana amps are set like that. It gives me the impression that Boss is not trying to be an amp modeler. And that's good, because if they are trying to be an amp modeler, compared to everything's out there, you know, they would have to really put a lot of work into, you know, stepping up their amp model process that they are doing. But to be fair about it, I really don't think that's what Boss is trying to do. Boss is trying to have their own unique tone and own unique sound out there, so that maybe in years to come in the future, people will try to duplicate. Wow, how do you get a Boss Katana amp sound without buying a Boss Katana amp? You know what I mean? So I think that's really what they're shooting for here. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go to what's called the Juggernaut setting. And again, we're going to bring our gain at 9 o'clock, readjust our bass, mid, and trebs, and our level here. Got the Tube Screamer. We'll put the Tube Screamer all the way up the drive, but we have the Tube Screamer off here. So let's do this. Now this right away almost gives me the impression of my my old Marshall Super Lead 100 212 cab, which is basically a plexi. And if you hook up to, or if you crank up the bass on that amp, and but to get that type of overdrive, you had 4 channels, 4 inputs. You had to crisscross one of the take a little patch cable and crisscross it, and then crank one of the other volumes. So you had 4 separate volumes. Now that being said, what we're going to do, we'll just mess with the gain on the amp. Now we're going to take it and bring that gain up to 12 o'clock. Bring our volume down. Okay, so now we're going to take the gain on that amp and bring it to 3 o'clock. Now here's a good example. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my bass that I have it set at noon. Ah, there we go. See how much that affected on this amp setting? Obviously, if I crank it up, it's very much loud. So, you know, again, this is good to do when you get these, is mess with the amp settings first before you get into the effects. And then get your amp settings that you like, and then mess with everything else. Okay, now, that means the EQ setting on that amp. On that amp setting, the EQ is going to be very, very touchy. So, again, everything's at noon. We'll take the gain. Now we'll crank the gain all the way up. So that's that. Now, here we're going to leave that all the way up. We're going to take the drive on the Tube Screamer all the way down. Now engage the Tube Screamer. Disengage it. The difference is very, very noticeable. Without the Tube Screamer, very full-bodied sound. With the Tube Screamer on, a little bit thinned up. So that tells me, with this gain all the way up, taking the drive on the Tube Screamer at 9 o'clock, it's even more sizzle. Drive at 12. Yeah. Drive at 3. And the drive all the way. Now, with the Tube Screamer on, hear that fizzing? A lot of fizz right there. We're going to take the gain down. We'll leave the drive all the way up. We're going to take the gain down at 3 o'clock. Now we're going to take the drive down on the tube screamer at 3 o'clock. Okay, we're going to take the gain down on the amp at 12. We're going to take the drive all the way up on the tube screamer. We're going to bring the drive back down to 3 o'clock. Yeah. We're going to take the gain now and we'll bring it back at 9 o'clock. And we're going to take the drive all the way up on the tube screamer. So you see what I mean? Now let's turn the tube screamer off. And now we're going to move the amp setting here to the X modded. And what we're going to do is readjust everything. Gain is going to be at 9. Bass, treble, middle, and treble at noon. And same with level. I actually got it about 1 o'clock. So this is the the X modded, yeah. Almost like the Marshall JTM 45. Okay, this is very interesting. Before I put on the tube screamer, let's just take the gain up to 12. Okay, that's at 12. Now we're going to take the gain at 3 o'clock. All right, now we're going to take the gain all the way up. All right. So let's bring the gain back down to 9 o'clock. Now we're engaged the tube screamer with the drive all the way up. So you see how full bodied it is with just the gain at 9 and the tube screamer off? We're going to engage the tube screamer. Okay. We're going to take the gain all the way up to 12, leave the drive on the tube screamer all the way up, and engage the tube screamer. Alright, now leaving the tube screamer on, take the gain all the way at 3 o'clock. Yeah, we kind of did this, right? So what we're going to do now, take this back at 12, and we're going to set the tube screamer at 12, the drive. Take the drive at 3. All right, now we're going to bring the drive down, the gain up on the amp. And we'll bring the drive down. It kind of opens things up, but on certain amp settings, definitely the tube screamer thins things out. But there's a lot of cool things just messing with the stat. Okay, so we'll take the we'll take the tube screamer all the way up, leave that off. Now we go into their versions of the amps. So that was the last. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 6 of the amp settings on this side. That is really Boss's own amps. On this side is their takes on amplifiers. So this is, we'll take the gain back down. We're gonna take the twin combo, which is their take on a Fender Twin, which, you know. Now here, I am going to change the reverb to spring reverb. And I'm going to put the toggle switch in the middle to call for both my neck and bridge pickup. Now we'll go to the neck pickup. Now, with that setting there, I'm going to turn on the tube screamer with the drive all the way up. And I'll actually put the toggle switch in the middle. Now, at this point, I'm going to go and do the coil tapping, the coil splitting on both pickups because I have my toggle switch in the middle. I'm using both neck and bridge pickup. Now we'll turn off the tube screamer. Bring that level up. Now bring that master volume up a little bit more. All right, now we're gonna, with both pickups in the coil tap position and neck, using both neck and bridge pickup, let's turn on the tube screamer. So obviously, if I crank up the gain with my drive all the way up on the tube screamer, let's take the gain on the amp up to 12. Yeah, it's very, very noticeably loud, man. I'm going to turn off the tube screamer. Okay, now we'll take the gain to 3 o'clock. Yeah, it's breaking up. Now take the gain all the way up on them. Now, obviously, we turn on the tube screamer. We're going to disengage the coil split now. Turn off the tube screamer. Bring down the gain on the amp to 3 o'clock. Or how about to 12 o'clock? Now that's with both neck and bridge pickup with the coil splitters off. So full humbucker. Now obviously, if I crank up the gain again on the amp and back down the drive, let's say at 12 o'clock. That's not too bad. That's not too bad at all, because usually what happens when you hit your lower strings, it gets very muddy. Now I'm going to go back to the bridge pickup. That's not bad at all. Okay, so that is going to be the twin combo. Let's go to the tweed combo, which, again, I believe it is their take on the Fender Bassman. Not the Deluxe, but on the Bassman. All right, so we're going to crank up the gain to 12. Okay, I can almost feel that, yeah. I don't know, it's almost like it's supposed to be the Fender Bassman, and I could kind of hear it, but I also start to hear a little bit of the Fender Deluxe. I mean, it's kind of there, but I definitely hear the Bassman, but it just, I don't know. All right, we take the gain to 3 o'clock. All right, now the gain all the way up. Now, with that being said, we're going to crank up the drive on the Tube Screamer. Now that's bridge pickup. So I'm going to put it in the middle. Now we'll coil split both pickups. Now we'll go to the neck pickup with the coil splitter out. Now we'll stay on the neck pickup and disengage the coil split. Okay, I think we'll... Now we're going to have the gain all the way up on the amp. We're going to back down on the drive to 12. Alright, it's not too bad. We'll take the the drive down on the Tube Screamer to 9 o'clock. Alright, with the drive at 9 o'clock, we're going to take the gain down to 12 on the amp. Okay, we're going to bring the drive up on the Tube Screamer to 12. Coil split both pickups. Okay, so that's basically that. Now let's go to the Diamond amp. Okay, this is kind of interesting. So this is their take on the Vox AC 30, I believe. Again, bass, middle, trebles on noon. Level on the amp is at 1. And of course the gain is at 9 o'clock. Okay, so now we're going to crank up the gain to 12. Ah, there we go. Let's take the amp gain to 3 o'clock. Let's crank up the gain all the way. Alright, now with that being said, let's take the Tube Screamer drive all the way up and turn the Tube Screamer on. This is with it off. Tube Screamer off, Tube Screamer on. Okay, so we'll get back down the gain on the amp to noon, but leave the Tube Screamer all the way up. That's now the Tube Screamer is off. Tube Screamer on. Now what we're going to do is take the drive at noon and see how that mixes. Bring the gain up to 3 on the amp. So you can see how this is going to affect it. With the drive all the way down and the amp's gain at 3 o'clock, that's what you get with the drive with the Tube Screamer off. Now Tube Screamer on. Gives it a little bit of a kick. We're going to crank the gain amp on the amp all the way up. Turn off the Tube Screamer. Now we're going to turn the Tube Screamer back on with the gain all the way up, and the drive on the Tube Screamer's all the way off. Tube Screamer off. Tube Screamer on. Now the more I put in a drive, it's going to open up. So, just wanted you to hear that. Now we'll go to the British stack here. And we're going to take our gain. We're going to take the gain to 9 o'clock, bass, middle, treble at 12, and level at 1. It's supposed to be British stack. We're going to take the gain on the amp all the way to 12. And actually what I'm going to do is turn down the spring reverb. I'll bring the reverb to home, but not where it's so echoey. Okay, now we're going to take the gain and bring it to 3 o'clock. All right, now we're going to crank the gain all the way up on the amp. All right, now with the gain all the way up on the amp, we're going to turn the drive down on the Tube Screamer. And now we're going to turn the Tube Screamer on. Very sizzly. So in order for that to work, with the Tube Screamer engaged and having the drive all the way down, well, here, let's just take the drive and crank it. very push. Very push. So we're going to take, now we brought the drive back all the way down on a tube screamer. Tube screamer's still on. Let's take the gain on the amp down to 12. Let's bring it to 3 o'clock, the gain on the amp. Now we turn the tube screamer off. So there's definitely tonal differences there. Alright, we're going to do the last amp here. And it's the rectifier. So we'll bring back our gain to 9 o'clock, bass, middle, and treble on 12 and level at about 1. Tube screamer is off. And we're just going to mess with the gain on the rectifier. Alright. Gain, now we're going to take it to noon. That was at 9 o'clock. Now we got it at noon. Now we'll take the gain all the way at 3 o'clock. Alright, now crank the gain all the way up. Now, with the gain all the way up, cranked up on the rectifier. With the drive all the way down, we're going to turn on the tube screamer. So let's take the drive all the way up. Let's see what happens with that. Yeah, it's pretty extreme. Take the drive at noon. Take the drive at 9 with the amps gain all the way up. Now, with the amps gain all the way up, take the drive all the way back down. Leave the tube screamer on. Like early 90s thrash. Let's see what happens when we crank up the middle. Alright, we're going to scoop the mids. Now we turn off the tube screamer. Turn on the tube screamer. Yeah, it does a lot of sizzle. So if you like a lot of that, you know, basically that's what it sounds like right out of the box. Okay. Alright, so that's really all the amp sims that are in there. Now this has its latest technology, the AIRD, their impulse. I guess that would stand for Advanced Impulse Response. The D maybe device, I don't know. The older ME series has a Cosm effect, and so does the GT1. Has the Cosm, which I think the GT1 sounds killer, man. It sounds great, especially for the price. Holy crap! But I will say, certain things on here, it has more of an amp feel, and maybe that's because of the advancement and the technology on this. Now, if you compare this to something like the Helix or the Pod Go, you know, the Pod Go definitely sounds great, and there's a lot more impulses, amps and impulse IRs that's in it. Plus, you could download a lot more IRs. I think on the ME90, you have up to 3 IRs you could download onto the ME90. Makes it kind of a little bit limited. But what's really cool with this is that you do have an effects loop. There is no parametric EQ on this, and what I've been discovering on certain solos that I do when I'm holding a whole note, sometimes the highs could be a little bit piercing, and that's why I'll roll down the tone on my neck. I mean on my bridge pickups tone knob. I turn that down, even though I'll have my switch in the middle, especially when I'm doing my fusion music. I don't need a lot of gain, but when I want that high note to hold, I notice there's certain areas will sound a little bit piercing, so I'll just roll down the tone. But I guess with with a parametric EQ, you can take care of those high-end sizzles. Now, I don't know where the effects loop sits out of the box, because I guess you could move it around. But to do that, you got to hook it up to the computer. I don't hook this up to the computer. So I would imagine somewhere maybe before the amp. Or no, wait a minute. Yeah, I kind of forgot how that works. I mean, I know how to hook up an effects loop, effects to the effects loop. It bypasses the overdrive. And I think it would bypass the amps preamp stage. I don't know. So, but to move your effects loop setting on this, you have to hook it up to the computer. Whereas I think the Pod Go, and even on the Zoom G6, you don't really have to do that. I don't know about the other units, but I do know from what I saw with the Pod Go, I think the Pod Go is the way to go, really. For that type of deal. But what is nice with this, it is all knob bass, and I was pretty surprised with some of the other amp settings. And just like I said, just using the amp and the reverb, and then the overdrive just to kick in. And in this video, I'm only demonstrating the Tube Screamer version of this in front of the amp to push the amp. So, yeah, there it is, my friends. Just you gotta get 11 amp settings on this thing. And, you just have to, again, mess with everything. Everything takes time to learn. It's a learning curve, Another positive with the ME90, it will run on AA batteries if you should need to. If I wanted to plug this in yesterday, I could take this into my little Roland KC will run on AA batteries, and so will the Roland BA330. That'll run on AA batteries. And the reason why I say that, yesterday we had a power outage, and we were out power for a few hours. And thank God we had the curtains closed, because down here in Florida, man, it gets real hot and humid, and when the power goes out, you got no AC, man. So it's wise to close those curtains when that happens and try to keep as much cool air in as possible, because it'll get real hot real fast, man. But if I wanted to hook up and jam, I would have been able to do that, because it'll run on the AA batteries. I do know some of the new Zoom MS50 Stomp, that'll run on 2 AA batteries. And I think the new, I forget what it's called, the G4 2 will run on batteries, the Zoom. So, but I don't think the G6 runs on batteries. And I know people will say, what's your obsession with running on batteries? Well, one thing is, when we done a lot of these high-end gigs that were in these like Botanica Gardens, where they did not have power. I know there was one Japanese garden we played at. We did a couple wedding gigs there, and it was exclusive because it had no power. There was no plug-in. So thank God I had the battery-operated stuff to play. Because even if you're doing classical guitar and you're outside and you're kind of close to an airport, man, those planes can be very loud, man. Very, very loud. So it's nice to have gear that can run on AA batteries. You can still get through your gig. And the reason why I mentioned with the AA batteries is because we still have our Carvin. I forget what model number. It was a small stage. It was called the Stage 110. It ran on batteries, but it ran on those special batteries you had to order from Carvin. And when the power went down, it's not like you go to Walgreens or, CVS and get those batteries. But with the Roland stuff, you slap AA batteries. You get AA batteries virtually anywhere at a gas station. So it's something to keep in mind if you're ever in those situations. That's a plus because there's nothing worse than you're at the gig, and especially if you've already been paid in advance. The gig's got to go on. Now you're kind of struggling because your amp just went out. The battery that you had in that amp went out, and it's a special battery, and you can't find it anywhere. And you got a high end gig you got to do, and you got to play the strings harder and everything like that. And it almost sounds like crap when you're doing that because if you're doing anything elegant, it has to sound elegant. So that's something to keep in mind. Anyways, that's irrelevant to this topic on the amp settings on this. So that'll do for this video, my friends. I will keep you posted when we'll do another video where we're going to combine the amps with the different distortions, and we'll do the compressors and all of that and get into everything that what this could do right out of the box. Again, I don't hook up anything to computers, so this would not be these would not be the videos for that. But I do know there's a lot of people, when they buy something, they want to take it out of the box, and does it sound good? So, and that's, of course, again, personal preference. So, anyways, thanks for watching, my friends. We really appreciate it. We are celebrating my wife's birthday over the weekend, so as of yet, we don't have any gigs, which is fine because it's going to be celebrating my wife's birthday, so. And, but we will be back in action next Friday. We're doing the music walk. And then after that, then the following weekend after that, we got another gig at this place called Moody's. People hired me to play because they like the jazzy fusion stuff, man. But I know there's a few rockers here and there, so we'll be, busting that out too. Anyways, my friends, I hope this is helpful, at least for right now. You get an idea what those amp settings, what they sound like. Okay, until next time, you stay strong, safe, and true. Rock on, and God bless. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening.